Disclaimer, this channel and all its videos are meant for a PG-13 audience. With that out of the way, enjoy this video. When I was doing research for my Thomas Magazine Characters 2 video, I found something really weird, and they are called the Thomas Minibooks. Now, these illustrations, yeah, they're really ugly, but at this point, I'm kinda desensitized to bad Thomas Friends illustrations. These books were written by Christopher Awdry. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that there are 9 books in total. They're all so strange. The illustrations were made by Ken Scott, which, I mean, his illustrations sound like they'd be a fun video to make in the future, so let me know if you want it in the future. The mini-books are non-railway series books, and every book includes a tape to listen to. That's if you live in Australia, because these tapes were exclusive to Australia. These books were narrated by Ron Hadrick and Andrew Satch. Ron Hadrick narrated 6 books, and Andrew Satch narrated 2. And the last book was narrated by no one, because for some reason, it's the only one not to have narration. You can find the narration of the books on YouTube. I've listened to a couple of them, and the narration sounds good for both narrators. And the music that is played is nice and calm. It's almost like it's some sort of bedtime story. Now you might be asking, are these stories good? Well, it kind of depends on the story. It feels like most of the book's stories are rushed, or weren't thought out as well. Like Thomas and the Pony Show. It feels very rushed, but a cool idea overall. But sadly, when it comes to execution of these books, it just isn't that great. Take James and the Balloons, for example. It's an interesting concept, yes, done before, but totally wasted in this book. Probably the best book in the whole series is Henry Goes to the Hospital. It could literally be an episode. Yeah, it wouldn't make too much sense. It's in a hospital, isn't really supposed to be on rails, but it wouldn't be a bad episode. Percy and the Kite is probably the most average book in the whole series. It's not awful, but not great. It's basically just Percy with kites. Henry and the Ghost Train is just a dream that Henry has, but it's an entertaining dream. I kinda like this book. Thomas and the Birthday Party is actually surprisingly good. It basically talks about Thomas being afraid that he's going to miss his driver's birthday party because he's busy that day. Wait a minute, doesn't Thomas have a driver and it's called Thomas's driver for a reason? Who's going to operate Thomas without his driver? If you ignore that plot hole, basically Thomas and his driver get to meet up at his birthday party because they're talking about get some arrangements done. And Thomas's driver's cake is Thomas. And Thomas can get so spoiled sometimes. Thomas and the Dinosaur really should just be called Thomas, Percy and the Dinosaur because it really just stars both of them. Percy sees a dinosaur statue and thinks that it's a real-life dragon. When he goes to tell Thomas about it, Thomas is confused, but then when he goes to pick up another one of those dinosaurs, he decides to play a trick on Percy. Of course, he gets scared, and then they resolve it, and they have a good laugh. It's not a bad story, and I like the dinosaur that's in the background. Thomas and the Tiger is up there with Henry Goes to the Hospital. It's a pretty good book. It stars Thomas delivering some tigers to a zoo, and one of them escapes into the work shed. There's also an abandoned steam engine in that shed, and it's basically just left there to die. It's basically what would have happened to Duke if no one came to save him. After Thomas leaves the work shed, Percy goes by and sees some eyes staring at him. Then, in the newspaper, Thomas's driver and firemen read that some tigers have escaped. So they call the Fat Controller, and he gets some zookeepers to go get them and put them back in the zoo. Since Thomas helped alert them, they name a cub after Thomas. Also, I just gotta say it. This alternative cover for the book is really awful. There's not even a single tiger in the Thomas and the Tiger book. Put tigers in the cover of your tiger book. That makes total sense to me. Why didn't you do that for this alternative cover? The last book, Thomas Goes to School, is a very weird way to end off the mini books, but I don't really think they're trying to go for any sort of finale. Basically, the book is about a school that Thomas passes on his branch line going bankrupt, and the way they decide to hopefully get out of bankruptcy is to start a fair. So, Thomas's driver is going to get his 2 donkeys for the children to ride. Yes, I know. I never knew he had 2 donkeys. His 2 donkeys are kind of cute though. And yes, this is the image that has Thomas with a somewhat brother. Thomas's fireman decides to dress up as a clown for the fair. The day of the fair, Thomas's driver's donkeys get sick with a cough and they can't come. So Thomas gives the children's rides, probably like he should have originally. And then after Thomas gets back from the ride, Sir Tom Hat announces that they have raised enough money from the fair to keep the school going. Hopefully, the school will keep on going and do well in the future. And those are all of the Thomas and Friends mini books. They are very interesting, and if you ever want to read one, I recommend reading Henry Goes to the Hospital first. That'll be it for this video. If you enjoyed it, consider subscribing because it'll really help the channel. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's @GanonSP. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in another video. Goodbye, everyone.